Hello and welcome to Endurance Minded. It's the podcast that aims to redefine what it means to reach our full potential by exploring how movement and mindset impacts our lives and how we can all work to show up as the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Taylor Thomas, founder at TEC. And before we kick this episode off, I have an all call for people in the health and wellness space that are ready to start their business or take their existing business to the next level. If you're a coach, a personal trainer, a dietitian, nutritionist, or anyone who has a passion for helping others reach their full potential, this is for you. The Growth Circle, TEC's Business Accelerator, focuses on three main areas to help you grow and scale a business. The first is revenue. TEC helps business owners accomplish their revenue goals in less time to build a sustainable, profitable, and scalable business. Next, we focus on client acquisition and retention. We provide you with the confidence, resources, and skills to attract and retain your ideal client. And last, and most importantly, we focus on community and collaboration. Building a profitable coaching business shouldn't be lonely. Build with a team of driven entrepreneurs just like you that will support and inspire you. If you're hungry to be a part of a community that delivers inspiration and mentorship, as well as flattens the learning curve to building your business, I want to invite you to apply today for the Growth Circle, TEC's Business Accelerator, and let us help you build a wildly profitable coaching business.
This seems like a challenging season for a lot of people. Talking to people in the health and wellness space, business space, entrepreneurial space, and it feels like there's a lot of weight that people are carrying around. It's a challenging season for any number of reasons. Obviously, we all have our individual things. We have our challenges. We have the frustrations, the stress, the anxiety, but there is definitely an undercurrent that I'm picking up of the fact that this is, for many people, a challenging season. So it got me thinking about how to take things in stride, knowing that challenging seasons are a part of life, knowing that when this one is done, there will be another one eventually at some point. I think certainly if we are growth oriented, if we're looking to reach our full potential, if we're trying to be the best versions of ourselves, then I think inevitably we will have to find ourselves in challenging seasons because, as I've talked a lot about on this podcast, friction is what actually creates growth. So we can't grow, we can't do something new or different or be someone new or different by doing the same things that we've already done. And so there's an inherent challenge that is required and connected to our growth, and that creates challenging seasons. And so today I want to talk about what that can look like if we take those seasons in stride. And what I mean by that is to recognize what that season is, to recognize what we can control, recognize what opportunities exist within that season, how we can show up, and ultimately kind of weather that storm and recognize that, again, it is an inherent part of life, something that we have to deal with. And so let's think about how to move through that season in a more meaningful way, in a more intentional way, and one that is maybe not quite so fraught. And as always, if you're a listener of this podcast, you know that what I try to do is make these extrapolations or have these conversations through the lens of lots of different areas of our lives. So I think I've talked to people that are having challenging seasons with their personal health, be that physical, mental, emotional. They're struggling. They're struggling to find time for consistent movement. They're struggling to get in the workouts that they want. They're struggling to make time and space for themselves in relation to the other responsibilities that they have. On the business side, struggling to make it work, to build the team, to find the clients, to make the revenue, whatever the issue is, there is just, again, that inherent challenge and the undertone that seems to be present. So I want to talk about taking it in stride and what that can actually look and feel like. And let's get right into it. The first thing that I think can be really helpful is to really get rid of toxic positivity. And so one of the responses that I've seen, and I've certainly been guilty of this as well, is that when we're in a challenging season, we overestimate and overstate how okay it is, how everything's going to be fine, how it is maybe not that big of a deal, or that we can handle it. We don't need help. We don't need support. I'll figure it out. It'll get better. I just need a day or two, whatever that is. And the fact of the matter is that while all that might be true, it is also okay if it's not okay. It's all right if maybe things aren't fine, that maybe it really is challenging. Maybe you got to settle in. Maybe the season is not going to be short-lived, and that's okay too. And recognize where you're at, accept it, and focus on what you can control. And I think that there's just a lot of power in the recognition that it might not be okay, and that you might not be able to solve it for yourself, and that it might not be over tomorrow. And again, that's okay, but I think it gives us a lot of power back, and it gives us a lot of autonomy in how we make decisions when we really just put language to what season we're in, when we recognize where we're at, what we have control over, and give ourselves back the power to make some decisions from a place of where we're actually at, and the resources that we have in front of us, the mindset that we're in, the energy that we have to expend, versus trying to fool ourselves and others that it is all right. So again, that toxic positivity, and I know that manifests for a lot of people because it feels like a good Band-Aid, but in fact, it is just that. It is a Band-Aid, it is not a true solution, and I don't think it arms us with real power to take control over our situation and actually arrive at a place that is productive. So next, focus on your anchors, or what I have called and do call your non-negotiables. I have talked about this a lot, and I actually find myself talking more and more about it because it's something that I've recognized is so paramount in so many aspects of our lives. And ultimately, what it is boiled down is it's your North Star, right? It's your roadmap. It's the thing that you can come back to. It's your benchmarks. It's the things that matter most. And I think we really need to know what those are, specifically in challenging seasons. If we don't know where we're going, if we don't know what we care most about, if we don't know what those anchors or non-negotiables are, it is going to be increasingly challenging to reconnect and to get out of that season, because the pressures of that time period are going to continue to bear down on us. There's going to continue to be external factors and things that are causing stress or pulling us in different directions or pushing us to make different types of decisions or whatever is inherent in that season for you. And I think that if we don't know what those non-negotiables are, what those anchors are, it becomes, again, increasingly challenging to find what it actually looks like and to trust how we're supposed to show up in that season in a way that is in alignment, to actually focus on the things that we care about. And so the real fact of the matter is that, sometimes you're crushing it and sometimes you're holding on for dear life. And that's okay when it comes to these non-negotiables, right? So some weeks, some months, some years, you're nailing it, right? You're hitting all the marks. You're getting in your workouts. You're crushing at work. You have time for family. You have time for friends. You have time for travel. You're doing all the things right, all the things you care about, and you're firing in all cylinders. And then there are periods of time, there are moments, days, weeks, months, sometimes years, where you're just hanging on for dear life. And I think, again, I'm not trying to glorify that, but I think that also is just sometimes the way life goes. And again, we have challenging seasons, and to recognize that, that is okay. And that when we are connected to our non-negotiables, those periods where we're not crushing it, those periods where we feel like we're hanging on to a life raft for dear life, then it feels like we're being more productive, right? If we know what those things are, if we know the things that we care most about, then we can more easily define success. And so, yes, in challenging seasons, maybe it doesn't look like when we're at our highest and best, and again, we're firing on all cylinders, but we can also work to define success differently, right? What does success look like during this season? What does that look like from through the lens of the things that I care most about, through the lens of these anchors and non-negotiables? And I think when we define success through those lenses, again, it gives us something to hold on to. It gives us a more definable measure of, are we or aren't we successful? Because if we're already challenged, if we're already stressed, if we're already under pressure, feeling like we're more and more behind because we're not sure what we should be focusing on and where we should spend our time, is only going to serve to make us that much more stressed, that much more anxiety ridden, and however that manifests for you. And so focus on your anchors, focus on your non-negotiables, get clear on what those things are, and recognize that it's okay. Again, there are seasons. And if we take it in stride, then we recognize that success can be defined differently, and in fact should be defined differently at different times of year based on what's going on, different times, different seasons in our lives. Next is to be proactive. So when we work to take things in stride, when we work to navigate these challenging seasons, I think one of the things that is most beneficial for us is to be proactive, because reacting to challenging seasons, to challenging circumstances, will only cause your stress to increase. It only causes anxiety to mount. Things compound. Panic, regret, stress, anxiety, again, like I mentioned. And so the reactive nature that so often comes with these seasons really only serves to compound the already negative or seemingly negative impacts of this time period. And the reason that I say seemingly negative is because I do believe that, again, these things happen for a reason, and that so often I've found, both with myself and in the work that I do, that on the other side of these challenging seasons, that's really where we seek growth. So often friction, so often stress, anxiety, pushback comes right before we uncover what growth can look like. We uncover new potential. We uncover something that we didn't know we were capable of. And so, again, I think there is an opportunity there, but it's hard to see the forest for the trees. And I get that. But I think if we can be proactive, if we can take a beat, take a breath, before you react, take a second. Think about, what does that look like? How could you change that narrative? How does that align with those anchors and non-negotiables that we just talked about? How does it align with what you would like to see? How you'd actually like to move through your day or your week or your life? And if you can just focus on taking a break, taking a breath, and think about being proactive versus reactive. And again, I know this is language that I've used a lot, and it's for good reason. It's because we double down. When we are in stressful seasons, these practices fall away. We react. And then we react because some of that is external. Typically during these seasons, we have a lot more coming at us. So we have more responsibilities, more stress, more input. Again, we're growing, and so we're also overreaching. We have to think about things differently. We have to look for resources in a different way. We have to look for the relationships that support that growth. And so there's an inherent workload component so often that accompanies these time periods. But there is a fine line, and I think there is an opportunity there to do those things, and for that to be a very real component of these seasons, but to be proactive. Take charge of the situation. Take charge of the communication. This is a massive aspect of the stress and anxiety and the inherent kind of fraught nature of these seasons is the communication aspect. How we're communicating with ourselves as well as how we're communicating with others. And so if we can take a beat, take a breath, think before we speak, sit on it, take a day, take a couple of days, go for a walk, exercise, talk to a mentor, talk to a partner, a family member, take a beat and try to be proactive. Try to think about what it could look like to change the narrative, to pivot so that maybe you don't prolong that season, right? Because so often we're only one or two decisions away, one or two conversations away from being in a completely different situation, from being in different relationships, in front of different opportunities, connected to things in a different way, specific to movement, right? All it takes is a couple of good workouts, a couple of days where you feel good, a couple of times when you prioritize yourself over all the other things that are happening, where it really starts to turn around, right? You really feel different. And so take a beat, right? What could it look like to prioritize things differently, to communicate differently, to be proactive in a way that allows you to change that narrative, both for yourself in your own mind about the season that you're in, but also the narrative that you're presenting to others. Because what we put out is what we're going to get back. And so there is an opportunity to shift. And I think a lot of that comes in that proactive versus reactive aspect of that so often accompanies these seasons. Next, when we're trying to take it easy, when we're trying to take it in stride, when we recognize that we're in this season, we don't know how long it's going to last. We know that growth is on the other side of this, but we're in it. It sucks. It's challenging. It's stressful. One of the things that we can do is to shift our mindset around pace. And this is something I want you to really hear me, and I want to state very clearly, is that you can't outwork these seasons. And what I mean by that is so often the response when we are in challenging time periods is to double down and is to increase the pace in an effort to get out of this season sooner. And I have seen that backfire more times than I would like to admit, both in my own life as well as people that I've worked with, people on my teams, conversations I have, friends, family, the list goes on. And I think that that's the mindset shift, is when we feel stressed, when we recognize that we are in this challenging season, don't let the first response be to quicken the pace. Don't let the first response be to do more, to double down, to put your nose to the grindstone, to shut people out, to try to do it more, to stay in your silo, whatever that language looks like for you, whatever resonates. You can't outwork these challenging seasons. And so adjust your mindset around pace. And I'm not advocating that you settle in and take it on the chin forever and always, but what I do want to advocate for, what I want to impart on you, is that consistency is what matters. So in these time periods, instead of doubling down, instead of increasing the pace, double down on consistency. Double down on what you can control. Double down on coming back to what you know works. Double down on trying to find more support mechanisms, on trying to put yourself in positions and places and within relationships that provide different perspectives and different resources and access to new things so that you can grow on the other side of this season. And so the pace is not what is important. Consistently doing things that matter in alignment with those anchors and non-negotiables, in alignment with who you are and what you want and your strengths, and even identifying your weaknesses and looking for people and places to bolster those. Do those things consistently. Do more consistently of what you know works. So don't focus on pace, focus on the frequency of which you're doing things consistently that you know work, that you know you can count on, that you know make you feel good, right? So things like, I always think about, when I'm most stressed, I'm also most adamant and most focused on exercise, right? And this flies in the face of how we often think about these time periods. The more stressed we get, what happens? The more we throw our on-to-do list out the window. The more we tell ourselves we don't have time to exercise. The more we let our personal goals go by the wayside. No, I'm going to double down on the things I know that work. I know that consistently showing up for myself, keeping a consistent movement practice, getting in the gym, going for a run, going for a bike ride, sharing those experiences with other people, connecting through movement, that's what works. That's one of the things I can always count on. So I double down, right? I make sure I don't miss a workout. I'll do anything to get that workout in on the day, no matter my schedule, no matter the stress, no matter the travel, no matter whatever. I double down because I know that it works. I double down on relationships. I talk to people more that I know I can trust. I talk to my inner circle, right? I'm looking for input. I'm not going to get isolated and insular. I'm not going to pull back. I'm not going to put my nose to the grindstone. I'm not going to try to just outwork this. I'm going to lean in because I know that if I consistently connect with other people, if I consistently make sure that I'm not the smartest person in the room and I'm surrounding myself with people that want to support me and that have great ideas and help me think about things differently and are a sounding board, that's going to get me where I want to go. So I do that more consistently. I double down on the frequency of the consistent things that I know that work. And so shift your mindset around the pace. Again, don't quicken the pace. Increase the frequency of the things you know that work. Double down on consistency. And focus on a small series of things that you know you can trust. This is certainly going to be in alignment with those anchors and non-negotiables that I talked about. So these things are 100% linked and related. Last but not least, and I did a podcast on this not so long ago, a few episodes back, but look for and celebrate your small wins. So here's the thing. I know that when you're in it, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. It feels like things are just exponentially harder than they should be. They're exponentially harder than you thought they would be, or things aren't coming fast enough. You're not getting the wins that you want, right? The big goal is far down the field. But here's the thing, like I mentioned earlier, what you look for, you will find. So if you have it in your mind that this is a shit time period and you're getting beat down and you can't catch a break and everything's harder than it has to be and no one's there to support you and you don't have time and you don't have energy and you don't insert whatever it is, you know what you're going to find? Exactly that. You're going to get all kinds of scenarios, situations, people in your life that are going to support exactly what you think. But if you look for the wins, if you focus on what is working, if you focus on where you've been consistent, the conversations you've had that feel fruitful and meaningful, a good workout, a solid walk, reading a good book, having a good meal with a partner, family, friend, a phone call. Focus on your small wins. You know what you're going to find more of? Things that feel like wins. You're going to find more of those. And consistency compounds. So when you consistently look for small wins, when you consistently celebrate small wins, guess what? You're going to find more of them. It's going to compound. You're going to find another one tomorrow or this week or throughout the month. And you're going to start to see those in other people. And so there's a mindset shift here where it's easy to say that. Look for the wins, celebrate the small wins. I get that. And I understand that that's a really hard thing to do. When you're in it and you're in the thick of it and it doesn't feel like you can catch a break and you feel like you can't come up for air and you're hanging on by for dear life, I get it. That's a hard thing to do. But I'm telling you, take it from me. If you shift that focus, if you shift your mindset and you can recognize the wins, if you can look and say, yeah, today was tough, but I got out for a walk. And I did that 3 times this week. And given everything that's on my plate, that's a big deal. That's a huge win. You're going to see that represented somewhere else. You're going to start to see that in other areas of your life. And so what you look for, you'll find. And if you're looking for shit, you're going to find shit. If you're looking for wins, you'll find more of them. And that's going to help shift your perspective. It's going to help shift how you're feeling about this season. And I promise you, it will help you feel like you're accelerating through this season in a much different way. It won't feel quite as heavy, and it'll feel like you're moving through it. Even though the challenges are still present, even though things are still happening, it doesn't feel so heavy. And so look for and make sure to celebrate those small wins. So as always, I hope this is helpful. Remember, if this is you, if any of this connects with you, resonates, even if you're having a tough day, think about how you can take it in stride, right? Think about how you can focus on what you control. How can you show up? What are those non-negotiables? What are some mindset shifts that you can make? What are some things that you can use to come back to consistency, to the things that you know that work? And as always, I want to thank each and every one of you for being a member of our community. This community continues to grow. It is vibrant. It is engaged. And I can't thank you all enough. As always, enduranceminded.com. You can check out episodes, and you can also scroll to the bottom. You can leave us a comment. Let us know what's working. Let us help you celebrate your wins. If you can't find them, make a list. We'll help you find them, right? I promise you they're in there. If you're having challenges, if you need support, if you want to hear some feedback, let us know. Drop us a line, enduranceminded.com, scroll to the bottom, and you can leave a comment there. As always, thomasendurancecoaching.com for support, resources, services to support your goals. We have our Accelerator program, the Growth Circle. If you are an entrepreneur and a business owner in the health and wellness space, and you're having more of these days, you're having a tough season, you're not sure how to get out of it, that's what we're here for. Community matters. Tools matter. Different mindset. People that have done it before. We're here to help. We're here to flatten the learning curve. We're here to make it something that's fun and enjoyable. And we're here to help you grow and build a wildly successful and profitable business. So if that's you, we can support you. That's thomasendurancecoaching.com. You can click on the right-hand side of the header and fill out an application. We'd love to have that conversation with you. So thanks as always. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on Endurance Minded.